Okay, this is our second part of our activity portion for this lesson. In this lesson, we're going to be working with some figures that are drawn on our coordinate plane, and we're going to be writing our y-intercept equation for each of these figures. So let's review very quickly our y-intercept equation that we learned in a previous lesson. Our y-intercept equation is y equals mx plus b. Okay, in this equation, our m is our slope, and our b is our y-intercept. Okay, in a previous lesson, we learned how to go through and graph when they would give us a y-intercept equation. Now what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing the opposite of that, where they're going to give us a graph of a line, or in this case, we have a figure, and we're going to write the actual equation. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and look at this figure. We'll start with this left-hand side. So I'm going to trace over this in red, and we're going to go ahead and write the y-intercept equation for that. Okay, so we have y equals our slope with an x, and then plus or minus, depending on where it's crossing our y-intercept. So just like our previous part of the activity, I'm going to go ahead and start with where it's crossing the y-intercept, and that is crossing right here, which is at between 4 and 6, which is positive 5. So it's going to be a plus 5 in the back end. I'm now going to go through and find my slope. So I need to find where it intersects on a corner, which it looks like it does right there. So my rise is 1 over 1, which would be the same as 1. Now I need to decide if that's positive 1 or negative 1. So when I look at my slope, that is going up from left to right. So that is a positive 1x. So my final equation there is going to be y equals 1x plus 5. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this other side. Now it appears to be parallel, but remember, in order for this to be parallel, it does have to have the same slope. Okay, so my blue line, we're going to have our slope with our x right behind it, and then plus or minus where it crosses the y line, so we'll start with that. So it's crossing right here, which is between my origin and 2, so that is a positive 1. And now we'll go ahead and check our rise and our run. So there's where it's intersecting. So we have a rise of 1 and a run of 1. So 1 over 1 is 1. And once again, that is a positive line because it's going up from left to right. So for our blue side, we have y equals 1x plus 1. Taking note that we have the same slope, so they were parallel to each other. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and work off of one of our sides. So we'll go ahead and start with this one, our top side here. Okay, so the nice thing about this one is we see where it's crossing the y line because it's actually touching. So y equals our slope x, and then where it crosses our y line, and it is crossing right here, which falls between 4 and 6, so that would be a positive 5. Okay, and on that one, we don't have a rise or a run. We have a slope of, that's what we would call a slope of 0. Okay, so no slope or a slope of 0. Okay, the other way that you would actually see this written is normally you wouldn't see that as y equals 0x plus 5. We would simplify that by writing it out as y equals positive 5. So instead of writing it like that, we're going to write it like this. Okay, and you guys have graphed those in previous lessons. Remember when they would just give us a line and it would say y equals and a number, we would find that number on the line and then we would draw a line in the opposite direction. So there we went through and actually had to write the equation and do the opposite. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at this yellow here. Okay, so taking note, it is not crossing the y-intercept. Well, we have to have a y-intercept for this. In order to write our equation, we have to either have a y-intercept or an x-intercept, which it doesn't, or we have to have a slope, but it'll always have a y-intercept unless it's just going straight up and down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue this line to see where it would cross. And when I continue that, it's crossing at -2. So even though my line doesn't cut through -2, if I were to extend that line, it would cut through -2. So my slope for this, and I'm actually going to change this to a darker purple. because my yellow is not going to show up very well on there. Okay, so I've got y equals something x, and then this time it was crossing at -2, so it's a -2. And once again, this has a slope of 0. Okay, remember, straight across, no, a slope of 0 is not a z, it's just a straight line that's going horizontally. So 0x, that simplified is going to be y equals, because that's not going to be involved now, -2. Okay, so there are all of my equations for each of those pieces of that quadrilateral. So we had y equals 1x plus 5, y equals 1x plus 1, y equals 5, and y equals -2. So for your part, you're going to go ahead and finish out letter A from your practice journal. Good luck.